Okay, well, this is my first guest, Judith Lewis, who is an amazingly close friend of mine. She's a naturopath and someone I always turn to for her wise wisdom. She's got loads of wisdom. So, yeah, welcome, Judith.
Hi, Tina. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Right. So you're gonna share with us some tips today on how to be a healthy person.
Yeah, I'd love to. So when you invited me, Tina, to talk about my 5 top tips, it made me think about the post that you put on Facebook recently about health not being just about nutrition. And I think as naturopaths, that's really interesting for us because when we work with clients, we're not just working on what people eat. And in our own lives, we're not just concentrating on what we eat to be well. We're also thinking about our holistic health. So that's the kind of combination of mind, body, and spirit. If it's okay, I quite like to say what I would say are the 5 causes of health, or the 5 areas of our lives that need to be healthy to create wellness in our lives. And I think those areas are nourishment, you could call it nutrition of sorts, connection, self-love, purpose, and the ability to let go. So if it's okay, I thought I would give one just really simple, practical tip for how to be well in each of those areas. They're just starting points, really, because we will all be at different stages of wellness under each of those umbrella topics. I'd only tell you one thing about food. I think it would be to say, I think everyone can benefit so much from green juicing. One of the real benefits is that green juicing is so alkalizing. And when the body is very alkaline, it's almost impossible for disease to take a hold. So we might be exposed to situations where we might become unwell, but our bodies are in an alkaline state and we're able to manage that and remain well in the face of challenges. I hope it's okay. I brought along my NutriBullet just to show people, even if you're not somebody who has a juicer at home and you've never made a juice before and you don't even know really what I mean by green juice, we can start from scratch and talk about it. So it is really as simple as this. You can, if you have a juicer, fabulous, use it. But if you don't, you can use a blender, a food processor, or a NutriBullet, and you simply pop some green vegetables into the beaker. And that can be anything. You can play around with your recipe and find one that you love. But for me, it's usually either some kale or some spinach, a little bit of ginger, maybe some courgette or some cucumber, because you get quite a lot of juice out of that. What else would I put in? If I have it, I might put some coriander or some parsley, usually some celery. And then if you're new to the green juicing, you might find all of that very bitter. And actually, I love that now. So I've reached a place where I no longer want fruit in my juice. I just want vegetables. And I think that's the ideal long term, to move to a stage where your juices are vegetable juices. But to start out, that's a little bit hardcore. So maybe you might want to start with 20% fruit and 80% vegetables. But you would make that 20% fruit only an apple or a pear, preferably an apple. The reason for that is because it contains pectin, and so it's okay to have that fruit with your vegetables in terms of the digestive processes. Whereas you wouldn't want to put some of your berries, gorgeous though they are, with vegetables, because the digestive processes are different for those foods, and you could create for yourself some digestive discomfort. So in your green juice, if you have any fruit, make it an apple or a pear, and make it primarily vegetables. And then all you would do, if you were using a NutriBullet, is when your vegetables were inside here, you'd then add as little liquid as you need to make the NutriBullet work. So you need some liquid, but very little, because obviously you're going to take the juice out of the vegetables. Then you blitz it for a short period. And once you've done that, that's where you kind of get a choice. You can either be somebody who really enjoys drinking it with all the bits of fibre in it, but personally I like taking that fibre out and having a really smooth juice. There are nutritional reasons for going for it with the fibre or without. They're both beneficial and they give you very different benefits, which again, if you wanted to, Tina, in the future, we could maybe do a video on what's the difference between a smoothie and a juice, and what would be the reasons why you would choose one or the other. But for today, just to keep it simple, you'd then take a jug. I use that one, it's my juice jug. And this is actually it's called a nut milk bag, but it's really just a muslin bag, and anybody you can buy a muslin bag, or you could even use a cotton tea towel. And I pop that in the bowl, and then if you can imagine, in here is all the blended vegetable. Pour it in, and then you lift the bag. This is a universal nut milk bag, and it's great because it's got a drawstring on the top, so all the vegetables are in there, and you squeeze. The juice comes out into the jug, and you're left with the fibre in your bag. Longer term, when you're really into your juicing and you're producing a lot of this fibre, you might want to start saving it, and there are recipes that I could offer you for what to do with that fibre, because obviously it has some great nutrients still in it. But then you put that aside, and in your jug you have a glorious green juice, and I have mine here that I made just before we started. It's like Blue Peter, isn't it? Like, here's one I made earlier. So you can see how beautifully vivid green it is. We're all human, and throughout the course of a day we might make the odd choice about food that's not that great. But if we've started the day with a green juice, we've set ourselves up with some alkalinity and with like that really brilliant start to the day.
It's a quick fix in a way to get all those veg into you so quick. Whereas if you put all the veg on a plate, it would put you off.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, Tina, isn't it? Because in terms of, like, if we say magnesium content, because of soil erosion and non-organic gardening practices and industrial farming, the amount of kale, for example, that you would have to get your magnesium quota for the day would be a great pile of kale. And actually, you wouldn't want to eat that much kale. I love kale, but I wouldn't want to eat a mound of it. But a huge mound of it went into this. There is something about, for me personally, about drinking a juice that almost wakes my cells up instantly. You can almost feel the cells of your body saying, oh, thank you. Yeah, number 2 is about connection. And by connection, I mean, to be healthy human beings, we need connection with other people. And we need our tribe, you know. And I don't know if you've heard the expression, your vibe attracts your tribe. But it's that sense that who we are and what we value and what we believe in draws people and experiences to us. And our connection with friends, family, our tribe, our connection with the outside world, with Mother Earth, our connection with our community and our society, all those things are really important. And also the connection that we have with our higher self, you know, whether we believe in any divine presence or whether we believe in God, it's irrelevant to that discussion of connecting with something that's greater than us, that's beyond us. And it's that connection with something that's bigger than us, beyond us, and more important than us that creates, for me, that wellness. That's what I mean by connection. And so under that umbrella of connection, I think my top tip is to be careful in what connections you decide to make, particularly in our current situation. So, you know, we can allow ourselves to become disconnected in this period of, you know, if we're living alone and we're not allowed to get out very much, or even if we're living in a family and we don't get space from each other, we can go into a period of being disconnected. And I think what I'm suggesting is that we make conscious choices about connecting in ways that are really healthy for us, and connecting with people who uplift us and who are on that same vibration as us. And that can mean doing Zooms like this today. being in touch with people who have your values and who vibrate in the same way as you do. You know, we're vibrational beings, aren't we? And you know, you can sense who the people are that you feel comfortable and at ease with. And our bodies also know if we're exposed to people and ideas and theories that don't sit comfortably with us. So I'll give you an example. For me, it is not good for me to be watching the daily news. It doesn't feel good in my body. It's not a connection that helps me to feel well and happy. So whilst I'm aware of the need to find out what's going on in the world and find out what the latest information is coming out of our government, I don't feel the need to be tuning in all the time and finding out the latest bits of information. So yeah, I think my tip is, we're all different. We all need different sorts of information and different sorts of connection. But I think go inward and be conscious about choosing that. Don't let it just happen to you. Be conscious about choosing who you expose yourself to, who you connect with. You know, it's a really great time for going inward and asking ourselves questions, isn't it, about the people who are in our lives, the values that we have, what connection we have with our Mother Earth. And how we can boost in our lives the connections that we really value and that bring health and happiness to us, and how we can make decisions to move away from connections that are not good for us.
As you said, going inwards, and I really believe that's one of the biggest connections, is
connecting with self. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think we, as a society, we become so disconnected with ourselves. We keep looking externally.
Yeah.
So I think it all starts with us.
That's such a lovely point. You know, in terms of the solutions for the future, that's true too, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, we can stand on the outside of our circle and look out and judge and criticize and feel negative, or we can turn around, face inwards and say, how can I be different? How can I be the change that I want to see in the world? How can I interact with the people I love differently and show compassion and kindness and love for myself, which is my next point actually, self-love, but also for all of those in my sphere. So that by doing that, gradually our sphere expands and expands, and we are showing that love and generosity and gratitude and kindness to more and more people. Number 3 is self-love, as I just kind of hinted at. And I think with number 3, there are lots of angles you could take for looking at self-love, but a really, really simple one is to think about the way we speak to and about ourselves, the language that we use when we're talking about ourselves. And we all do it. I mean, I know you and I, Tina, we laugh about the fact that you have an expression where when you ask someone to do something for you, you say, I don't want to be a pain in the arse. And I have those expressions too that I use about myself. And it's about consciously noticing them and changing them for something loving. So let me try and think of an example. I might say, oh, I'm rubbish at that. Or I could choose to say, that's something I'm really enjoying learning.
Yeah.
And even you choosing different language about ourselves shows ourselves a gentler sort of love, a kindness. And I have noticed that quite often we're kinder to other people than we are to ourselves. And we might be quite a gentle, kind, loving person in our interactions, but we're very hard on ourselves. And actually, genuine love and compassion for the world comes from being comfortable and at ease and in love with ourselves. And we can develop that self-love in many ways, but we can maybe a starting point would be to become conscious of the way that we speak about ourselves and the hard time we give ourselves. The other one that's really, really useful as a tip would be to kind of stop shoulding all over yourself. You know, so we say, oh, I should do this, I should do that. And carried with the word should is a sense that we're doing something wrong, that we're not quite good enough. Yeah. Whereas if we switch that word out and instead of saying I should, we say I could, then we're opening that up to the possibility that we could make a choice to do something different. So self-love isn't about arrogance. It isn't about saying I'm better than anyone else. It's about saying I am good enough just as I am right now, and I love myself as I am right now. And I am happy to improve. I'm happy to develop self-knowledge about the areas of myself that need to be kinder, more loving, more generous. But I do that from a position of loving myself just as I am right now.
And people need to remember that not to wash your nose and think, right, okay, that's how I've got to be. So they get up tomorrow and they start speaking kindly to themselves.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen like that. But once you become aware of it, I think that's a big start of it. It dissolves it and aware of it.
That's a beautiful word, Tina. It dissolves it. It's absolutely like that, isn't it? Once you're conscious of something, that's the beginning of it changing. Yeah. Sometimes we don't have to do any more than become conscious of something, and then it will melt away. Number 4 is kind of linked to connection and self-love, and it's purpose. Okay. I think happy lives, healthy lives are lives with a sense of purpose. Okay. And I don't say that lightly, because it's not easy to find what your purpose is. I think I probably was well past 50 before I properly knew what my purpose in life really was. And of course that can change throughout life. But what I think is interesting is that in Sanskrit there's a word, and the word is dharma, D-H-A-R-M-A. And you can translate it in a number of different ways, but a kind of rough translation would be right path or path of duty. Now, I love that path of duty because it suggests that there's something that it is right for us to be doing in our lives. And when we are on that right path, we will feel good about ourselves. We'll feel connected. We'll feel that self-love that we were talking about, because we will be doing what we were meant to do, what we were born to do. We will be in our purpose. And that, the dharma for everybody will be different. But the principle that is a tip that everyone can take away is that when you start noticing those moments of absolute peace, the more you notice the contexts in which you feel that, they are your clues to what is your dharma. So yeah, I would say those moments when you feel in the flow, when everything feels right, those are the moments when you are on your path. And if you can start becoming conscious of them, that can build to a picture where you know what your dharma is. So think of them as your dharma clues, and you're a dharma detective.
Purpose is going to be something that a lot of people are looking for now.
Yeah.
With everything that's going on, because the life outside, where they're usually busy and blocking, suppressing everything, and it's like, oh shit, I've got to start thinking, what is my purpose?
Yeah, it's an opportunity, isn't it? So this time is an opportunity because everything has slowed down, and all the demands that are usually placed on us, which, as you rightly say, we can use as distractions from going inward and asking ourselves, what is our life about? Why are we here? And those distractions have gone away. And I think maybe it's why some people might find it quite uncomfortable. And it is uncomfortable, it is. But working through that discomfort to an awareness of what your deeper purpose is reaps incredible rewards. So sometimes it's about sitting with that discomfort. But there's nothing wrong with being busy, but keeping busy suggests avoidance of something. And if we are keeping ourselves busy to avoid something, then we're missing an opportunity to really go inward and learn. And so I think that's a useful distinction between being busy on your path and on your purpose, and being conscientious about fulfilling your dharma, or using jobs and busyness to distract you from your dharma. Would be to think of letting go in a more kind of metaphysical way, and think of it as what we can let go of emotionally, things from our past that we can let go of, and thinking about how we can use something as simple as our breath. So if you think about it, with every inhalation, you take something fresh and new into your body. You take what you need from it, and you let go of what you don't need. So you breathe out carbon dioxide, and what you don't need leaves you. You take what you need, what you don't need goes. So we are accepting in our breathing pattern that it is important to let go. And some of my clients have found it really, really helpful to do a very simple breathing exercise where they settle down in a quiet room, even just for 5 minutes if they've got busy lives and busy families. And they, first of all, notice their natural breathing pattern. So they're not attempting to change their breathing pattern at all. They're just noticing it. And then once they've noticed it, they start to attach the word let to the inhalation and go to the exhalation. And they can just sit with that for a few moments, almost meditating on the two words as they breathe. So let and go. And what that does, it allows us to accept that the healthy way of living our lives is to be open to change. And if we think about it in the natural world, when you look at the trees in winter, there might be a sadness that they're bare, but they have to be bare in order for the next season of vibrant green leaves to grow. Yeah. So that process of taking something in and then letting it go is an important process for us to accept in order to be holistically well. You know, we could talk endlessly about what letting go means and what we're letting go of and why it's so important. But I think in terms of giving tips to your listeners so that they can practically go away and actually make some changes in their life, the breathing one is a really excellent one. We can come out of this behaving in different ways and spreading kindness and compassion and gratitude and having a different relationship, not only with other people, but also with ourselves, with our communities, and with the natural world. That's going to be so important, that coming out of this, we have learned something about how to live in this beautiful earth.
Yeah, and it's all about the message I'm trying to get across, is that no one has to follow me in what I'm doing. Like, we've all got our own choices.
Yeah.
But just to remember that you are in control. Each of us are in control. We can choose ourselves. Yeah. That we don't have to follow everyone else.
Yeah.
We can take back our power.
Yeah. Conscious choice making and taking back our power. Over our health and over our interaction with the world.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Judith.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
I love chatting to you. Like, I could chat to you all day. A long video.
Well, you know I can talk, so.
So remind me of your top five tips.
Yeah, so nourishment, connection, self-love, purpose, and letting go. And the tips were green juicing daily, choose your connections wisely, positive self-talk and stop shoulding on yourself, be a Dharma detective, and let go.
Thank you very much, Judith.